She's always a very sweet girl. To me, that just wasn't her, you know what I mean? Her thing. But I don't know, like you know, dude said, she switched it up or something.
And there was something about how Keisha Cole complained that you weren't giving her any songs because of your relationship with Beyonce and how she sort of said something about Beyonce.
These are two people that have been working in concert, collaborating and competing. These are people that have been covering each other's secrets for decades.
Keisha Cole had the voice, the hits, and the streets behind her. She was that girl in the early 2000s, raw, real, and ready to take over. But just as her star was rising, everything stalled.
I just felt like, dang, I really did come up on Beyonce, like, and I really did, like, look at her for inspiration, and I was just like, that song and what I said just went way too far.
Now, with the industry's dark secrets leaking, thanks to Diddy's trial and insiders finally talking, Keisha's sudden fade is getting a second look, and one name keeps surfacing: Beyonce.
Because I really do love Beyonce, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, because I felt a way about Bow Down.
Was Keisha blackballed by Bey and her circle? Was it really just industry politics or something colder? It's time to talk about how one of R&B's realest voices got silenced, and who might have made sure of it. There was a time in the early 2000s when Keisha Cole looked unstoppable. She had the vocals, the pain, the street credibility, and the kind of raw authenticity that couldn't be faked. Her breakout single, Love, had the hood, the radio, and even the pop world in a chokehold. She was young, talented, and real. The heir apparent to Mary J. Blige's throne.
You're hurting me, I met your girl, what a difference.
So why did she fade? Why, in an industry that was hungry for authentic black female voices, did Keisha Cole suddenly vanish from the spotlight? Now, in 25, as the music industry gets rocked by the Diddy scandal, NDAs being shattered, and insiders finally talking, the question doesn't seem so crazy anymore, because one name has been quietly circulating in every back-channel conversation: Beyonce.
What it sounds like to me is that the government found a very, very, very successful way to control hip-hop by allowing their top agents to run everything.
Let's rewind. In the early 2000s, Keisha Cole was not just releasing music. She was defining a new wave of R&B. Her voice was gritty, emotional, and unforgettable. From I Should Have Cheated to Heaven Sent, she poured her pain into every track. Her BET reality show, Keisha Cole, The Way It Is, broke records and brought a level of vulnerability rarely seen from female R&B stars at the time.
I'm who I am, and you either take it or you leave it, you know?
She wasn't polished like Beyonce. She wasn't manufactured like some pop girls. She was real, and fans loved her for it. But being real in an industry built on image and hierarchy, that's not always a good thing. The tension between Keisha Cole and Beyonce has been quietly bubbling for over a decade. But back in 2013, things got real spicy between Keisha Cole and Beyonce. Yeah, it was one of the most talked about celeb feuds that year. Fans, blogs, and entertainment outlets couldn't get enough of the drama. What started as a few tweets ended up turning into a full-blown controversy that had the internet buzzing. Keisha Cole, who's always been known for her raw vocals and straight-up honest lyrics, had already carved out a solid space for herself in the R&B scene with hits like Love and Heaven Sent. She wasn't one to sugarcoat anything, and that's exactly what sparked the fire. The whole thing kicked off when Keisha hopped on Twitter and gave her 2 cents about Beyonce's track, Bow Down, I've Been On.
Don't forget it, don't forget it. Respect that.
The song was seen by some as a bold assertion of Beyonce's dominance in the music industry. Keisha Cole, however, saw it differently. She tweeted, "Can't stand when people all self-righteous. When it's convenient, it makes them look good. LMAO, but can still talk S when convenient, 2FOH." In a since-deleted tweet, she went on to add, "First, women need to stick together. Now, B's better bow. S may H, but it's all G. Chicks stay shooting the but when I speak my mind, it's a prob." Her comments about Beyonce were raw, real, and totally unfiltered. She jumped on Twitter, the go-to place for quick-fire opinions, and let the world know exactly how she felt about Bey's song, Bow Down, I've Been On. And let's just say, she wasn't impressed. Keisha called out the lyrics and the overall message, saying women should lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Tweets like, "Women need to stick together," and "It makes them look good, but can still talk when convenient, too," made it clear she had had something to get off her chest.
And there was something about how Keisha Cole complained that you weren't giving her any songs because of your relationship with Beyonce and how she sort of said something about Beyonce.
Social media exploded. The Bayhive swarmed, but what looked like a petty online feud may have been a public crack in a much deeper, behind-the-scenes conflict. Some folks praised Keisha for keeping it real and standing up for what she believed in, especially around the idea of female unity. But then there was the Bayhive, Beyonce's ultra-loyal fan base, who were not here for the criticism. They clapped back hard, defending their queen and dragging Keisha in the process. One person commented on this saying, "I know people like to stand up for their favorite artists, but the Beyonce fandom can be scary ASF. They flat out harass people for saying anything negative about Bey. No one can be critical. No one can dislike anything she does. People don't seem to understand how dangerous that kind of thinking is. Putting a fellow human on that exalted position isn't healthy." In true social media fashion, things blew up fast. Hashtags were flying, debates were raging, and everyone had an opinion. What started as a few tweets turned into a full-blown online showdown, with fans from both sides going head-to-head. Whether you agreed with Keisha or not, one thing was clear. She sparked a conversation that went way beyond just one song. Let's be real. Queen Bey isn't just a superstar. She's a whole movement. Beyonce has been dominating the music scene for decades, and the love people have for her runs deep. But if there's one group that takes that devotion to the next level, it's her legendary fan base, the Bayhive. And trust, this isn't your average fan club. The Bayhive is passionate, loud, loyal, and not the ones to mess with. They've got Beyonce's back like a digital army, ready to defend her honor at the drop of a tweet. To understand why they ride so hard for her, you've got to look at Beyonce's come up. She first hit the spotlight in the late 90s as the powerhouse frontwoman of Destiny's Child, and even back then, her star power was undeniable. The group cranked out hits, smashed records, and became one of the best-selling girl groups ever.
I was supposed to be like, you know, a star or whatever. I just went childlike, like I was 12, like, oh.
But once Bey went solo, she took off. With albums like Dangerously in Love, Bidet, and I Am, Sasha Fierce, she didn't just prove she could stand on her own, she completely changed the game. Tracks like Crazy in Love, Irreplaceable, and Single Ladies didn't just top charts, they became cultural moments. She showed the world her range, her fire, and her ability to turn every performance into an experience. When Beyoncé dropped her self-titled album Beyoncé out of nowhere in 2013, it wasn't just a surprise release, it was a total game changer. No promo, no warning, just a midnight digital drop that shook the industry. And the message? Beyoncé was done playing by the rules. This album was bold, raw, and unapologetically hers, with themes like empowerment, feminism, and identity woven through tracks like Flawless and Partition. She made it clear, this wasn't just music, it was a statement.
I know when you were little girls, you dreamt of being in.
As Beyoncé evolved, so did her fan base. What started as a cute nickname, the Bayhive, turned into a full-on cultural force. These fans don't just listen to her music or attend her concerts, they ride for her. Whether it's dissecting hidden meanings in her lyrics, defending her against online shade, or pushing her causes, the Bayhive shows up every single time. But what really makes the Bayhive stand out? It's not just their loyalty, it's their purpose. A lot of them genuinely align with the values Beyoncé stands for. We're talking social justice, racial and gender equality, empowerment, and philanthropy. They don't just idolize her, they mirror her mission. And let's not forget the connection Bey has with her fans. She may be a global icon, but she knows how to make it personal. Through her lyrics, performances, and even her rare but meaningful posts, she always shows love and gratitude to the people who lift her up. That bond, it's real. Social media has only fueled that that fire. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, you name it, the Beyhive owns a corner of it. These platforms gave them a voice, a community, and a megaphone to celebrate their queen and everything she stands for. And when things go down like with Keisha Cole in 2013, the Beyhive doesn't just react, they mobilize. However, with great power comes great responsibility, and the Beyhive has faced criticism for their fervent defense of Beyoncé. At times, their passion has escalated into online confrontations with those who dare to criticize or challenge their queen. This has led to accusations of cyberbullying and toxic behavior, a reputation that the Beyhive as a whole vehemently rejects. Insiders claim Keisha had been outspoken about her discomfort with the Beyoncé machine long before that tweet. She didn't play industry politics. She didn't bite her tongue. And according to several industry whispers, she paid the price for it.
Has taken it so literal that she has completely twisted it, and she's come for Beyoncé. I don't like how she tried to come for her. Anybody came for Beyoncé. That girl is at the top of her game.
Not long after the tweet, her label support faded. Major platforms stopped promoting her music. Features dried up. And just like that, Keisha Cole, the woman with platinum albums and a hit TV show, became an industry ghost. Let's not pretend this conversation is new. For years, Beyoncé has been seen as untouchable, the gold standard of fame, success, and power. Publicly, she's polished, composed, and always 2 steps ahead of controversy. But behind that flawless veneer, there have long been whispers, quiet but consistent stories of what happens when another woman dares to challenge her position, criticize her, or even slightly threaten her throne.
I always knew Beyoncé was gonna be Beyoncé though.
Take Carrie Hilson, for example. At one point, she was the industry's golden girl. She could sing, write, and dance, and she penned hits for some of the biggest names in the game. But everything changed when she made a now infamous jab at Beyoncé in her song Turnin' Me On. She never mentioned her by name, but the shots were obvious, calling out fake personas and manufactured divas.
I protected him. I protected the girl that wrote it, who went on to become famous. I protected everyone in the story, so I had to eat that. And I am still eating it to this day.
Not long after, Carrie's entire career went radio silent. Interviews dried up. Projects were shelved. To this day, she talks about being blacklisted, and many believe it's because she crossed the queen. Then there's Tinashe, who entered the scene with serious potential. Her debut single, 2 On, had the charts buzzing, and fans expected her to be the next big R&B pop crossover star. But she quickly started expressing frustration with how the industry was handling her, saying she felt controlled, suffocated, and that major decisions were being made without her voice. She spoke of powers that be, who didn't want her to win.
I was in there with people that I never would have before, and I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that was how important it was to continue to have a perspective.
And while she never named names, speculation grew, especially when her opportunities mysteriously vanished, just as she started making noise. Let's not forget Amiri, who exploded onto the scene with One Thing, a hit that was bold, fresh, and miles ahead of its time. That single dominated the charts and airwaves in 2005, and Amiri looked poised to become a household name. But then, silence. Her momentum disappeared, and oddly enough, another female artist with a similar sound, similar aesthetic, and a whole lot more label backing began to rise at the exact same time. Fans have long questioned why Amiri vanished so abruptly. Some believe she was quietly replaced. Some believe her lane was taken. And of course, there's Lauryn Hill, the ultimate what if. She was a genius, plain and simple, a once-in-a-generation voice and a lyrical powerhouse. But somewhere along the way, the narrative around her shifted. She wasn't praised as a visionary anymore. She was labeled erratic, unreliable, difficult. Yes, Lauryn had personal struggles, but she also dared to call out the very system she was in, the machine that made stars and destroyed them. And after the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, an album that changed the landscape of music, she essentially vanished from mainstream radio. Like others before and after her, she became a cautionary tale, not a celebrated legacy.
Young people know that it is not a burden to love him. and to represent him.
What do these women have in common? They were all talented, they were all threats, and they all spoke up about the system, about the silence, about the control. And once they did, the industry seemed to turn its back on them. And now, in the aftermath of the Diddy fallout, people are revisiting these stories, not as isolated incidents, but as a pattern, a recurring theme of powerful women, especially black women, being strategically sidelined after stepping out of line or brushing up against the wrong industry giant. In a rare revelation about the music industry's inner workings, Keisha Cole disclosed a startling plan of the late Tupac. Before his untimely demise in 1996, Tupac had secret intentions to part ways with Death Row Records and embark on a new musical journey under Quincy Jones's prestigious label.
It was just weird though, because like the night that he was saying he wanted me to work with him when we get back to LA, it seemed like he was talking like he knew he wasn't gonna make it.
Cole's introduction to Death Row came through MC Hammer, leading to her meeting with Tupac and Suge Knight, the label's co-founder. The scene was set for a momentous encounter during the weekend of Mike Tyson's infamous Vegas fight, coinciding with the tragic night of Tupac's shooting. Not only Cole, but also Tupac's fiancée, Kidada Jones, and Cole's brother, a rapper from the Outlaws, found themselves intertwined in this tumultuous narrative while being in town. Cole recounted the intimate conversation she had with Tupac during those crucial moments. He wanted to sign me to Quincy when he was with Kidada, Quincy's daughter, she revealed, her voice filled with emotion. He was gonna leave Death Row and go to sign with Quincy. He wanted me to go over there because he said that Death Row was not the place for kids. So she also worked with Tupac and knew something went wrong with him. And do not forget, there are claims that Diddy might be there behind Tupac's death. And Beyoncé's name, it keeps coming up. Not with direct accusations, but with enough smoke to make people look for the fire. Because at some point, you have to ask, is Beyoncé just an icon, a symbol of perfection, and the embodiment of black excellence? Or is she also the silent gatekeeper, standing at the top of a carefully guarded empire, one that rewards loyalty and obedience, and punishes defiance? Here's where the story takes a sharp, disturbing turn, because what's happening with Sean Diddy Combs isn't just a scandal, it's the unmasking of an entire industry, one lawsuit at a time. Over the last year, Diddy has gone from hip-hop icon to the face of a crumbling empire. Allegations ranging from coercion, exploitation, NDA and career sabotage are unraveling everything he built, not just his brand, but his network. And that's what has people talking.
Day 10 of Diddy's trial, I saw the tearful testimony from a former Diddy employee who'd spent years in his inner circle. She claims that he her and threatened to
because Diddy didn't operate alone. He was part of a very exclusive, very protected circle, a group of powerful black executives and artists who shaped modern music while keeping a tight grip on who got to rise and who was left behind. And right there in that orbit, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, L.A. Reid, the so-called black elite of entertainment. For years, this circle represented black excellence at its peak, chart dominance, Grammy wins, billion-dollar brands. But now, that prestige is being peeled back, layer by layer, revealing a very different reality underneath. It's no secret that Beyoncé and Jay-Z's empire rose during the same era Diddy ruled. They attended the same Rock Nation brunches, signed deals with the same executives, appeared at the same charity galas, and moved in lockstep through the music business food chain. These weren't just business acquaintances. They were part of an ecosystem, one that rewarded silence, punished dissent, and quietly exiled those who asked too many questions. Now, with Diddy facing multiple lawsuits and a federal investigation, former artists, managers, and insiders are finally speaking out. They're revealing how the music industry functioned like a shadow government. Powerful gatekeepers at the top, controlling the flow of fame, money, and opportunity. And if you didn't play the game, if you challenged the wrong people or stepped out of line, you were done.
She is a chartered government informant. What it sounds like to me is that the government found a very, very, very successful way to control hop by allowing their top agents to run everything.
And that's where Beyoncé's name starts getting uncomfortable traction. No, she hasn't been named in court documents yet, but multiple voices are saying the same thing. She benefited not just from her talent and work ethic, but from the silent system of suppression that made sure no one else could truly rise beside her. A system where rival women were silenced, deals were quietly sabotaged, and careers were tanked before they ever reached the top. The question people are asking now isn't, did Beyoncé commit crimes? It's, did she knowingly thrive inside a system built on intimidation, exploitation, and gatekeeping? Because the Diddy trial isn't just about him, it's about an entire era, one that Beyoncé was undeniably part of. She moved in the same boardrooms. She partnered with the same people. She was protected by the same invisible rules.
Just make Diddy the acceptable and not address his greatest collaborator in all of his business deals.
As NDAs are broken and testimonies stack up, the myth of untouchability is crumbling. The artists who were once silenced, like Keisha Cole, are being reevaluated. Their disappearances from the spotlight are no longer being brushed off as personal failures. They're being examined as potential casualties of a ruthless, carefully maintained hierarchy. And if Beyoncé stood at the top of that hierarchy, then it's not just Diddy who has something to answer for. It's the entire power structure. And Queen Bey might just be the next name up for public scrutiny. The Diddy trial is doing more than taking down a music mogul. It's exposing an entire ecosystem of power, silence, and survival. Victims are speaking out. Insiders are revealing the inner workings of what many are calling the celebrity elite cartel. NDAs are losing their grip, and the very machine that once ran on secrets is now being forced into the light. And within that light, Beyoncé's name keeps surfacing, not as an overt villain, but as someone who may have knowingly benefited from a system that protected her rise while silencing others. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.